Good afternoon to everyone. August, it is an honor to be here in your district again. The last time I was here, it was you and I and then Leader McCarthy, who's now Speaker McCarthy. And you know that cold day when we had that press conference outside, we were laying the groundwork for this meeting today. We were talking about American energy independence. We were talking about cutting supply lines that depended on China and Russia and foreign adversaries. And that was part of the making of the commitment to America. And this is like step number 2 or 3 in the commitment to America. And we've got a long ways to go to make sure that America is energy independent, that we're not relying on foreign allies for the things, or foreign adversaries for the things that we have to keep our economy functioning and to keep Americans safe. It's great to have Pete here. He's the chairman of the Energy and Minerals Subcommittee that deals under the guise of the Natural Resources Committee on all things energy and minerals, onshore, offshore, mining, and Tom Tiffany, who's the chairman of the Federal Land Subcommittee and deals with a tremendous amount of issues and natural resources under federal lands. We also deal with water and wildlife, the Endangered Species Act, NEPA. All those things fall under the jurisdiction of our committee, and energy production starts under the jurisdiction of this committee. As I mentioned earlier, Kathy McMorris-Rogers, the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, will be here Thursday for another hearing where they'll talk about the hurdles that Americans are facing downstream in refining and processing and getting the permits on those downstream manufacturing and processing areas that are so critical to creating even more jobs and even more national security. You know, last week we had a hearing in D.C. We titled it "Unleashing America's Energy Potential," and it shined a light on the policies that are preventing us from achieving those goals today. And our goal is to make sure that we're using the tools of the federal government to somehow get the bureaucrats off of dead center so that they'll do their job to issue permits. It doesn't make sense when you go out and talk to folks in the field and you ask them, is there any difference between a permit that was obtained in a relatively short period of time through a state permitting agency versus a permit obtained over a long period of time through the Bureau of Land Management? And I've had people tell me for years, over and over, you can't go out and look at a project completed under a state permit or a federal permit and tell any difference to the environmental restrictions and the guidelines, to the quality of the project. It all ends in the same result. So we as federal policymakers, we have to ask the question, are America's tax dollars best being spent by these federal bureaucracies that aren't producing results? They're becoming more of a hindrance instead of part of the solution. You know, we don't want the federal government to be part of the problem. We want the federal government to be part of the solution, and it's under our power to put those policies in place, and I believe ultimately to use the power of the purse to make sure that those policies are implemented. There's no reason whatsoever that the President of the United States should ever go to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or God forbid, Russia or any other place to ask them to make up the supply of energy that we could be producing here at home. There should never be another time in our future when the President of the United States depletes the strategic petroleum reserve to lower prices instead of focusing on the real economic issue, and that's low supply. We have to increase supply so that we don't see these inflationary costs and these instances where we've got fuel prices at the pump going through the roof. And we know that transportation fuel is only part of it. Natural gas is one of the cleanest burning, most efficient burning fuels on the planet because we've been able to utilize a lot of natural gas. America's been able to lower our greenhouse gas emissions more than the top 12 countries in the Climate Paris Accord combined. Natural gas produced in the United States, one report shows is 41% cleaner than natural gas produced by Vladimir Putin. You've got a lot of oil in the Permian Basin. You've got a lot of gas in the Permian Basin, but the largest deposit of natural gas on the planet is in the Marcellus and Utica shale play out in Pennsylvania. Yet we can't build pipelines up to New England. And when all of this was going on with Russia and people were talking about us buying energy from Russia, we were buying liquefied natural gas, bringing it into the port of Boston to supply gas to New England residents instead of building pipelines from Pennsylvania to New England. That just plain doesn't make sense, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't require Congress having to have hearings and pass laws to do the right thing. But if that's what it takes, I know that there's 3 other gentlemen here and about 220 or 218 more or 19 more in Washington, D.C. that are wanting to do the same thing, to put common sense back into the equation, to look out for America's needs and America's resources, and to also do this in a way that generates wealth and provides American jobs instead of shipping our jobs overseas. So I think the witnesses that are here today, I enjoyed reading your testimony. I look forward to hearing your oral testimony and then having a chance to ask questions and to find out more about these issues so that it can inform us to write legislation that we should be marking up and passing out of the House in early March. And hopefully you'll see a broad energy package coming out of the House of Representatives by the end of March to address these issues. And I really believe we'll get some bipartisan support and that even some bicameral support in the Senate, because Americans are tired of having to depend on other countries and not have the national security and having the huge cost for energy. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Westerman. The chairman now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger, for 5 minutes to deliver an opening statement and to introduce our witness from Texas, Ms. Bentley.
Well, thank you very much to the entire Committee on Natural Resources, Chairman Westerman,